Yes, guys, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk here. We've taken a bit of a break, from the live streams, but I am back, back from that vacation, had some scheduled kind of videos that, I think, filled the gap while I was gone. Darius and Kieran, ran pretty much a stream. I don't even know if I was capable of coming up with myself. So like I said, I put it in the community chat or in the community tab. So hopefully if you guys were kind of trying to get your fix of these sort of kind of, very, I would say, kind of interesting discussions that we have over on this channel. I think Kieran over on Let's Talk Spurs had a really good version of it, if not a better version. So I would check out Darius and his. But Darius, we're not joined by Kieran today. He was going to join us, but unfortunately he has some festivities actually to go to. So good for him. But we're stuck in the heat, like we were just discussing in the background. How are you keeping, my man?
I mean, if you asked me yesterday, I might have been genuinely like dripping from my literal arms. So I'm doing better. The weather's still really nice today. I've had a great week, to be fair, great 2 days. But more than anything, I've been really wanting to talk about like general transfers. I know we've been kind of privileged and lucky to talk about Spurs' transfers this summer because normally we're waiting until sort of maybe even not even now. We might be even waiting until even later in the window to start making our serious business. So to say that most of our stuff's done and now anything else being a bonus that we're waiting for is kind of crazy to think about. So it'll be fun to sort of talk about all the other teams that have been doing business, because in my opinion, this window has been maybe not in terms of price the most expensive, but in terms of where people are going and what's going on and sort of potential shifts and rebuilds going on. It's been a crazy window. So
just quickly, do you feel like there are less howlers in this transfer window? Because I've heard, that common theory that there are fewer mistakes, like fewer kind of, blunders that I'm seeing in this transfer window. Like a lot of sensible moves that I'm
I mean, it's kind of, is it obvious or is it not with COVID? Obviously, I know it's been sort of 2 years since it's happened, but revenue's not fully back up and running for a lot of teams. And I guess
they have to be more
they
sensible.
still have to be more smart, sort of balancing the books. I know sort of a lot of FFP works over sort of a period of years. So you still have to take into account sort of the expenditure and outgoings of those COVID years. So I do think that clubs are still going to be smart. But as revenue starts coming back and success in areas might sort of favor that. And let's not even lie, there has been some pretty big sort of deals been done and players sort of holding value that you wouldn't think maybe have held value and maybe some players going for more. So it's interesting. I just don't think you've seen that sort of 3-digit, and when I say 3-digit, I mean the 100 million sort of signing happen this summer yet. And I think, again, like I said, that's probably down to teams being smart and seeing contracts. And like, for example, if Erling Haaland was sort of 3 years, 4 years on his contract in a certain place, he might go for that price. But no, we'll talk about everything. I'm very excited to talk about it with you, and I'm heartbroken that we haven't got Kieran with us as well. But we will not disappoint him, and hopefully he is watching with us or watching later on. So yeah, big up to Kieran, big up everybody in the comments.
I feel like he would have brought some interesting takes. Sometimes I kind of find
100%.
Kieran. I feel like Kieran's, a bit of kind of like a Patrick Van Straten, kind of, guy, to be fair, he'll kind of, give you that sort of, a take that maybe you haven't heard before. So he is going to be missed, but we do have the comment section, which, as we know on this channel, is a very, very smart and a very, intelligent comment section when it comes to talking about these, kind of just transfer, discussions, transfer worlds. Maybe it's maybe probably a worse word to probably describe it, but we are going to greet them. We're going to take a look at them. And Elias in the chat saying Richarlison is clearly better than Jesus. It's just a worthwhile discussion. And I don't know if I'm going to be devil's advocate for Jesus. I'm probably just going to kind of, just crap on Jesus, a bit more, Elias, if you ask me. But, it just made a really good thumbnail. Just kind of look good, on paper. It is, I think, a good discussion, because if we did have a Gooner on, I think he would clearly make a good case for Jesus. But I'm not really sure if that, would really add to the content, not something that we're really desperate for over here. Big up, Elias. So good to see you. We have Sean in the house. Big up, my man. And he's honestly, I love Sean's Twitter account. Sean, I've sent this to a few people recently. Sean, if you could take over my Twitter account, I'd let you. If Zoe could take over my Twitter account, I'd let her, take over my Twitter account. I want to kind of, get, because I just hit 1,000 recently, and I kind of was just like, geez, like I don't deserve 1,000, because there are a lot of better Twitter accounts out there that, have much better takes than me. So I'd say Sean, maybe Zoe will give you guys my password, but definitely, good to see you guys in the chat. Ayanami, I don't really know what to say to this other than kind of like, what is it? And you know that movie Dodgeball, Darius?
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it. I've definitely heard of it, but I've not seen it.
With like Ben Stiller, there's that part where he
Mm.
goes like, "Oh, he's a philosophizer." You know, that's what I would say with Ayanami. He
I
thinks he's a
don't even want to
philosophizer.
say that's Tupac lyrics, but something tells me that they are Tupac lyrics. So
Thinks he's a philosophizer now. That's like the Ayanami one. Big up, my man. Good to see you in the chat. Stuart saying, good evening, guys. Good to see you. 6 o'clock, I'm imagining around your time, Stuart. Hopefully you can have some flat cap with a bit of dinner, or maybe just, maybe a late evening beer or whatever you're having. Good to see you, Stuart. We have cool name, Cow Chic. That's how I'm going to say it, Cow Chic. Saying we're already winning the transfer window, period. I think we definitely aren't. If you've ever seen any kind of, general kind of, channels, kind of like this one, I know we kind of lean heavily Spurs over here, but if you've kind of seen a lot of channels, they've been putting Spurs as kind of, the winners of the window so far, which is just always beautiful to see. Usually that's never the case, Couch Chick, and it's good to see you in the chat. Had the Gam, good to see you as well. Saying hi, Jack, good to see you in the house. Bjorn, good to see you. Evening to you, Bjorn. We have as well, just making sure we have Cola. Always good to see Cola. Always in the chat. Derek Hutchinson as well, my man. How are you? Good to see you, Derek. But there you are, everybody. We are going to be talking kind of transfer kind of discussions. Transfer battles is kind of the way that I put it, where we're going to be putting up players as well as teams so far in this transfer window, and kind of, comparing, players of a similar position, kind of, a similar sort of role, kind of, what they would offer to the team, and, maybe kind of discuss what, transfer actually is a better one. And a good example of it, maybe just to do a bit of a sneak peek, might be, even Richarlison versus Darwin Nunez, which is the better deal when you look at the price, and which one, maybe is going to have more pressure, which player is going to come under more pressure is really what I mean when they actually are over at that football club. And I think that's actually something else to take into consider, kind of, Darius, don't you agree? Kind of, definitely. You have to look at, not only the price of the deal, but also like maybe one player is just kind of there to play some sort of auxiliary role where the other guy is coming in to be the main man. And I think you have to always look at that too.
Yeah, you definitely have to hold that to a certain sort of standpoint when you're talking about transfers and discussing the value, because like you say, if you are spending 60 million on a backup, it is expensive, but again, it shows the level that your squad is at and that you want your squad to be at.
Less risk, technically.
And you exactly, and then you look at sort of another team. I'm not going to mention who. I'm pretty sure we'll get into it. They spend 50 million on potentially a starting striker who, if they get injured, you're back down to your backup again. So for us,
just quickly, also the Richarlison price tag was at 60 million when I look at all reports, but that's with the add-ons. And I decided to be generous to the Gooners. I don't know why I was, but I decided to say the 60 million because Transfermarkt has put it at 52.8 million, and then Gabby Jesus's is at like 48 or 46 or something like that, something. And you're kind of like, when you really put it that sort of way, it becomes really a no contest, I think, at all. But I guess everybody's been talking about the add-ons, sort of a price, which is totally true and totally warranted. But I don't know, maybe it just inflates the Richarlison kind of price tag a bit more, if you ask me. But we're going to go, as a bit of a warm-up, maybe as people are kind of coming in here. And I think it's a fun one. We're going to talk about Leeds and Nottingham Forest. The reason I brought up Leeds so much and this one, and we're going to be talking about Leeds plenty, Darius, is because there was someone that I forget what stream I was on, but I said, like, I feel like Leeds are kind of one of the winners of the transfer window so far. And someone sort of like laughed at kind of, that. And I was kind of shocked because I was like, look at the business that they've done, considering like if you're losing your two best players in Calvin Phillips and Rafinha, like that's tough, to try to replace those sort of players. And if you look at what they've tried to do, they've brought in Tyler Adams as well as Mark Roca as sort of the replacements for Rafinha. They did bring in Aronson and Luis Sinisterra as kind of the replacements for what Rafinha brings. I kind of really like what Leeds is doing, to be fair. I know these are a lot of kind of risky transfers because the majority of these guys, if I'm not mistaken, come outside of Europe's top 5 leagues, so it is a bit hipster what they're doing over there. But I kind of do like, Leeds, if you ask me. And I know we're going to get to Nottingham Forest and then, kind of discuss their business. But Leeds, I mean, do you agree with me? One of the winners of the transfer window?
I think Leeds are kind of having a Spurs 2013 window where they lose their best players and replace them with multiple players to sort of
Yeah,
fill up that
it
role.
could be
And
a Bale window. It could
it's
be.
a Bale
Yeah.
window almost, it seems like. And to be fair with you, I from face value, I think it's a really good window. Like I think it's an amazing window almost. When you sort of know what the players can bring and you sort of look at the fact that they've only lost Rafinha and Calvin Phillips really and truly in their main team this window. They've brought in 6 players to replace 2. In theory, your output should go up if all goes well. So, and obviously each player is each player's fills in different positions. I know you've got Christensen as a right back. Adams is a defensive midfielder, but also can play at right back. I'd be interested to see where Adams plays, to be fair with you. So it is very interesting. But like
He's
you
kind of a
say,
utility player, right? He just plays all over the
exactly.
pitch. And I don't really think he's the Calvin Phillips replacement. I think he's
No,
just there for the midfield if you need him, and then he's there to play other positions if you need him. I think Mark
definitely.
Roca is the Phillips replacement, which I think is a quality Phillips replacement, kind of
Mm,
something a bit different, of course, but still, tall, still kind of powerful, maybe enough for the Premier League, has, a
mm,
really good kind of distribution on him and has that kind of deep line distribution like Phillips does. He's not going to be as robust or as powerful as Phillips, Mark Roca, but I could see him like kind of just, I don't know, for 10.8 million, like I could see him, filling that role,
mm.
without there being, huge question marks or huge concerns. And if you feel like you need to double pivot with Tyler Adams, that doesn't seem too silly or it doesn't seem too, ridiculous. I just feel like they kind of covered up that Phillips kind of, hole. And I know a lot of people point towards Rafinha as, of course, being where the goals and the creativity comes from, but the whole reason, that Phillips was just by himself in that midfield, in a
Mm.
lot of games
You
where
can
he was
look at
just
it.
holding down the whole fort. And I
You
like
can,
how they've replaced, a guy like him.
yeah, no, definitely. I think you can look at it both ways. Like you say, I think those 6 players there. I'm not too keen, but not too sure on Darko Gary. I know he came from Manchester City, if I'm not mistaken. But apart from them, I think it's going to be very similar to sort of what Norwich did last season. I thought Norwich were going to have a better win. I think it was last. Yeah, pretty sure. I thought Norwich were going to have a better season with the window they had last season. I really do think that with players like Rashika and stuff like that, I thought that Norwich would fare a little bit better. But it
Mm.
seems like Jesse Marsch has a familiarity with most of these players. If that's be it in the RB Leipzig or the RB Salzburg camp. I mean, 3 of them come from there. So, and Mark Roca, obviously,
Christensen, I think, is a clever one. He could
yeah.
play as like a center back if they wanted to go to a back 3. I'm not sure if he can play in a back 4, but he technically played as a right back for
Mm,
Salzburg. He looked good, actually. He's very quick as well. He's kind of very powerful. He's almost Tanganga, kind of like, he kind of
mm.
has a Tanganga like build to him.
It
Just
seems
very
it seems
quick
like
and
they're
very
listening to him,
powerful.
doesn't it? It
Hmm.
really does seem like
Yeah.
they're paying a lot of attention to Jesse Marsch. It seems like they've credited his ability to keep them in the Premier League and they're giving him the players that he wants. Because do you think you would have seen these players come from Salzburg, Leipzig, and potentially Sinistera if it wasn't Jesse Marsch? I know they may fit a
No,
similar
definitely
mold
not.
to potentially Bielsa, but they're not players that I would imagine Bielsa would get 100%. So I think they're really
I,
showing a lot of
yeah.
intent to back Jesse Marsch, and that I think is a good sign for Leeds. And like you say, regardless of that, good price on players. If they go down, I think a lot of them will probably keep their value. So it's I don't want to say it's foolproof, but with the money that you're paying and you've lost out on your 2 best players, I think to get 6 players like that is a good replacement.
I actually feel like it does have Jesse Marsch's, kind of window, written all over it.
Mm,
But to be fair to Jesse Marsch, Bielsa was kind of the opposite, where it wasn't really hard to like find a player that he even wanted.
mm,
He had to, go through all these kind of, research and stuff himself, whether he thought, he was good enough for Leeds. And
mm.
maybe someone like Jesse Marsch is just, not as, strict or not as, just kind
I'm
of
willing to work
picky
as well,
when
isn't
it
he?
comes to players. And so if,
Mm,
the Leeds director is just like, listen, like I'm assuming you want these type of players, over at the club. Jesse Marsch is probably a lot easier guy to work with, whereas Bielsa, as great as he is, probably was a bit harder to work with, I would
Yeah.
imagine, or at least so the reputation is. Pochettino, I think we heard, was a bit similar too, where, didn't always, approve of every transfer, was a bit kind of more difficult to kind of just get the thumbs up from. And maybe that's kind of what Jesse Marsch is also offering, to that team is, someone that can actually be able to, I don't know what I'm trying to say yet. Just someone that's just easier to work with is all.
Definitely.
But just to go through the rest of the transfers there, Christensen, of course, from Salzburg, rate that one. Sinistera, we did a scout report on the guy here. I think that's an excellent Rafinha replacement. I think they got an excellent deal on the guy, probably one of the players of the season from Eredivisie, and he did really well in the Conference League, which sort of suggests that he can do maybe he can perform against better competition, against better players, especially in like a in the big occasion as well. Aronson, I'll be fair, he's looked really good alongside Adeyemi for Salzburg in those Champions League games, but that's a big price. Like, I don't think he's worth that price, but it could work out, and then it might not really be a big deal. I just think that's the one price that they definitely maybe forked over a bit too much, if you ask me. But Sinistera, I think, was actually a total steal. I think that's a steal for the price that they got him for. Moving on, though, to Nottingham Forest, I mean, I guess, a team that I guess at certain moments a bit more local to you, Darius. And they signed, Union Berlin's, kind of very talented player, Taiwo Iwaniyi, I think is how you say it. He's had a spectacular seasons in the Bundesliga. Nico Williams, from Liverpool, of course. Niakate, I think a guy from Mainz, a French center back, very highly rated. Biancone, some Troy kind of right back as well. They signed a lot of players for the defense. Omar Richards, a great signing from Bayern for 7.45 million, and then Dean Henderson on a loan transfer fee. I know it's not as much money as Leeds have spent, but Nottingham Forest spending very smartly as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to front. I'm not too sure on Taiwo Iwaniyi, Niakate, or Biancone, to be fair.
I don't think you need to be. I mean, I don't think you need to be, but I guess they've gone for, like players that you could say a championship club might, not normally take the risk on. Like, they've gone a bit more outside the box, and the Forest, they look like they're investing. It looks like, they're trying to stick in the Premier League.
I think the big thing for me is if they fit Cooper's plan, and if they do stick with the three at the back, and if they do sort of want to continue sort of playing to the strength of their right back, as obviously Jed Spence was a big standout, Brennan Johnson obviously a very good player for them. They want to keep that same style, and these players fit this system, then I think it could be a very good deal. For me, Dean Henderson, without a shadow of a doubt, is a great deal. Even if you haven't got an option to buy, he's a very good goalkeeper to have. Nico Williams, for me, again, you might look at the price and think the price is a lot of money. And I do think it is quite a lot of money, but he will give you the quality that you need to replace Jed Spence, especially coming from a team like Liverpool. He will be able to provide that quality. So I do think it's a good sign. Omar Richards, I think, is great. Bayern, I'm not sure. Did Bayern get him on a free, didn't they? They make money on Omar Richards regardless, don't they? I'm not sure if they paid a fee. So it seems really cheap to me for Bayern to sort of give up on that already. It hasn't been long since he's been there. So obviously, clearly
he looks good.
They clearly think he's not got any space in that team for him. So to be fair to him, I think he was probably looking at that plan anyway, to just go to Bayern, secure that maybe game time, or just, the coaching from Nagelsmann alone will be so much to sort of soak in. It will be so useful for him. So, and then, when you look at it on the whole, will it keep them in the league? I don't think so, but is it smart business? Definitely.
I think they might stay in the league with these signings. I think they really built out their back five here. I think, they've bought a lot of quality fullbacks. They bought Nico Williams, to be a good fullback. They brought that French guy, Biancone, to be a good fullback for them. So they have two quality right wing backs. They brought in a new striker who is very talented, for Union Berlin. And, Union Berlin have been overachieving for considering how long they've been in, the Bundesliga. So I feel like, I know it looks risky, but I could see that, one being perhaps a steal. Niakate, a center back signing, young, French, who knows? He could be like another Wesley Fofana, in the most ideal scenario. Omar Richards, I feel like, is a steal for, left wing back. And then Dean Henderson goalie. It's almost like they're building out that defense to survive, the
If you
onslaught of teams that are coming after them. I feel like they're really fortifying the defense.
if you look at both these windows, who has sort of more pressure to stay up? Do you think? Obviously, with Forest, do you think Forest still has that? For me, I feel like
Leeds, I think, are trying to
losing their
recover
play,
where Bielsa was, that 10th or 11th place finish. They're trying to get back to a 10th or an 11th place finish.
But that's going to be hard to do, losing their two main cogs in their team. For me, that's why I feel like.
But that's why they've tried to replace it with Aronson and Sinisterra, and Tyler Adams and.
This is going to be a very interesting season. I think the quality again has gone up in the league. I can't really pick out a team that really was outstandingly awful. That's obviously still in the league now. Maybe Bournemouth probably is going to be the only team that you can maybe say is a lock to go down, but I think it's going to be difficult, man. I think these teams look.
Who won then? Who wins this one?
I'm going to go Forest, because Leeds have lost too much. I think Rafinha and Phillips are too important. Despite the good signings, I think Forest look like they're building on. I know they lost Sambo, but they've replaced him with Henderson. It looks like Forest are building on their team, and Nico Williams and sort of Henderson to replace Samba and Spence almost, you could say, potentially upgrades. So yeah, I'm going to say Forest. Maybe a bit of home city bias, but I'm going to go Forest.
I think it's Leeds. I think Leeds are one of the winners of the transfer window. I could even make a case that they had a better window than we have, because I'll be honest, just because with the players that they're looking at, the players that they're identifying with, they're trying to push hard for the mid-table. Looks
CDK would have made that the best.
CDK would have made it. Or
Gakpo
would have been a crazy one. That would have been crazy. I just feel like when you're in that position where you lose your two best players in Rafinha and Calvin Phillips, if you're forced to lose your two best players, this is a decent attempt. I just think this is a decent attempt at trying to fix those, issues. And they're not expecting one player to fix those issues. I think that's a common mistake made by teams, to expect one player to do it. They actually have, used two players in each case, Aronson and Sinisterra to replace Rafinha, Adams and Roca to replace Phillips. I think that's
less pressure as well on those players.
I agree. I think, Leeds and Nottingham fans, if you are watching this stream, maybe you're watching it back, I would say you're welcome, because we gave you plenty of service there. Darwin Nunez, I think, could be one of the biggest flops of this transfer window. If you ask me, Darius, I feel like he looks good, but when you look at the price of what he's being brought in for, I just feel like it was just so extortionate. And this is, of course, the add-ons fee, including for Richarlison. So really, this is 52.5 million versus 67.5 million. Richarlison is only 2 years older than Darwin Nunez as well. It seems like Darwin Nunez is not the better deal, and he's also the one that's going to have a lot more pressure on him.
I feel bad for Darwin. He's only played 2 games in preseason, and I'm already seeing football Twitter absolutely hound him and make a bunch of compilations for his misses. So it's going to be a lot of pressure for him, and the price tag's just unfair, really. I think it's not his fault, and I think he's going to not necessarily buckle under the pressure, I think, because I do think he's got a good character about him. I think he's a very good player, and sort of what he did and the influence he had on that Benfica team can't be underspoken. But does Darwin Nunez have the ability, like Mane, to potentially link up with play if had to? I think Mane actually looked quite good in the build-up, to be fair with you. I think he's good finding a pass. I think he's underrated at that. And obviously, Mane's, we know what he's like 1v1. He's obviously gotten a lot worse. Last season, I don't think he was great at all. Obviously, he improved when he moved to centre-forward. But I think unless they really do sort of let Darwin sort of stay in the box and Trent put a ball in the box and him operate in that area only, I think it's going to be difficult. I think Liverpool are going to want him to be involved in build-up unless they do change their way they play. And it won't.
Didn't they say that was one of his weaknesses, was build-up play and getting he's seen as kind of a bit of a poacher.
This is the thing. So I think I struggle to see. For me, when I see Salah, I think Salah is, again, he's good at building up the play. But for me, I'd rather Salah be running in behind being sort of pressuring that fullback to have him in a 1v1 situation. If you're going to have Salah being that person, I think you're going to need somebody in the box like Darwin potentially, but also there's Diaz doing the same thing, running on past his player 1v1. So somebody has to be
better playing with a Firmino, because that's what I feel like Firmino always does. Is I know he can't finish, but the guy is just exceptional at one touch hold up play, linking up players.
I think he's gonna struggle. I think you might be right. I think he is. It's gonna be hard unless they go crazy and change it to a 2 up top and they have sort of Salah and him working closer in conjunction with each other. That might work, but I don't think Liverpool are going to change their entire formation to cater for him, because at the end of the day, he isn't the main man. Salah's still the main man. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Darwin. He's got amazing crosses, so he can do that poacher play, like you said. But it's whether Liverpool are going to then become a one-dimensional team where all you know what to do is stick 2 on Darwin, and the crosses aren't as effective anymore. So it's going to be interesting. I do think he probably won't have as good a season as maybe Haaland, even Jesus, maybe even Richarlison. But will he improve in the next couple of years? Probably, and it probably will just take him time to get used to the team.
Just quickly, last question, and I think we're answering ourselves here, where we're obviously saying Richarlison's the better deal. Richarlison obviously comes in with less pressure, if you ask me too. Do you feel like Richarlison wouldn't have been a bad shout for Liverpool?
I think it would have been a good shout.
If they went for Nunez, why not go for Richarlison?
I think Richarlison would have been a good shout. I just think he wouldn't have been accepted by the Liverpool fans. That's probably the only reason.
That's right. What am I? Totally forgot it.
The only reason why
I totally forgot. I totally forgot. Oh my lord. Oh my lord.
To be fair with you, I don't know if he'd be accepted after that bus driver meme. To be fair, so. Yeah, I mean, you know what?
Just not even that. That's just.
You know what? Regardless of that, though, I'll be real with you. It would be very good for Liverpool to actually. I think it'd be a good signing for Liverpool.
If he didn't come from Everton, it would have been a great player for them to
go for. I said Arsenal needed somebody like Richarlison to have that. He brings a different sort of character around. Even already, Son saying in interviews, he's almost one of his best mates. He's very close to him. I think he wants to play, and he's so dedicated, and he will try hard, and he will fight and back his teammates, and just little things like that are so important in your squad. And I welcome Richarlison with open arms. I think, like you said, the pressure's off him because he doesn't necessarily have to come in and replace Son or Kane. He just has to add on to what we've got already. So if he can find the confidence, I hope, I pray he gets a goal in pre-season to give him that confidence. And I think Richarlison, like I said, for me, 10 to 15 goals this season, successful in my opinion for Richarlison. Even if he doesn't play every game, if he gets 10 goals for me, I think that's successful, because that adds on. I can't remember Bergwijn getting 10 goals in the league and helping us sort of progress. I can't remember Lucas getting 10 goals in the league. He might have, but I struggle to remember that time. So yeah, for me, it has to be Richarlison. May get proven wrong, but yeah, for me, I think Richarlison is the better deal.
Yeah, and to be fair as well, 52.5 million, I think, is the real price. I was, being unkind to Richarlison by adding on, the add-ons. Whereas, this is the Darwin Nunez transfer fee without the add-ons included. So
are the add-ons difficult for Nunez, or is it guaranteed add-ons?
I imagine there are some. I'm not sure what the total. I'm not sure what the total is.
They managed to get quite a low fee if it goes up to. I think it goes up to 100 million euros, isn't it? So it'll be about 80 million pounds. So not that much, to be fair. But hey ho.
We'll see how it goes. Still a lot of pressure, I think, there. But here's the big one, the marquee one, everybody. We are going into it. Richarlison against Jesus. I do have a bit of notes here, Darius. Would you like me to go first? I don't have too much to say, but I bet you probably have, a good spiel. Would you rather I go first? Would you rather go first here?
I don't know if the flat cap army are going to like what I'm going to say, so I'll probably let you get the positives out first, and then I'm interested to see what you have to say as well. To be fair, because this is a really, really good debate. I'm not going to lie to you. As much as we are, debate,
especially if you were neutral. If you were neutral, it would be a fascinating debate. But when it comes to Jesus and Richarlison, I've been hearing the narrative that Jesus is, this incredible talent, that, has so much, more football ahead of him. Whereas Richarlison is, been around, done that, kind of, it's just sort of, someone that we've gotten used to in the Premier League, you could say. Richarlison is actually younger than Jesus. I think I'm just going to let that kind of just sit for a second there. So when I've been hearing like some of the highlight reactions to Jesus's goal, they're like, "Oh, what a phenom, what a talent, that we brought into this club. So much more life ahead of him, at Arsenal and everything." I just seriously don't like. It just seems like they're trying to like make him seem like he's 22 years old or that he's 23 years old. He's younger than Richarlison, or he's older than Richarlison by a month. In fact, I believe Richarlison was born in May. And then Jesus was born in April.
Wow.
And they're both, I think, 25, if I'm not mistaken. I verified it with Wikipedia. So I think that's just kind of a sitting point that you have to look at. We're looking at players around the same age. I did put 60 million here, Darius, but we are comparing 47 million essentially to 52.5 million, a price of less than 5 million difference, less than 5 million difference. Obviously, one player is coming in with a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's also even come in with kind of having no real experiences being a lone striker, and he's kind of actually uncomfortable as a lone striker, and he's going to have to play alongside Nketiah. To be fair, that Nketiah partnership could really work out. You could see it, being kind of an interesting one, but the fact that he can't really play as a lone striker for someone that you paid, 47 million pounds for, I think is kind of a bit interesting. And is he really going to play right wing, which is also Bukayo Saka's position? Like, I really doubt that. And I don't really know if he's like the right winger in an Arteta B-Tech Man City sort of system where, Saka plays extremely far out wide. Don't think Jesus likes playing that far out wide. I think he likes playing a bit more inverted, almost like a Lucas Moura on the right wing. And so when you kind of look at it, he really is there to be a striker, but he's kind of too scared to play a striker by himself. Kind of another thing as well is that Richarlison hasn't really played with a world-class manager before, whereas if I'm, kind of Jesus his whole career in the Premier League, he's been playing for the most world-class manager in the most world-class team with the most chances in Europe. Richarlison has played for Watford and has played for Everton, most recently playing under Rafa Benitez and Frank Lampard. I feel like the guy deserves a bit of therapy for playing under those two managers and playing for Everton. I just feel like it's just two different careers, two different lives of footballers. Richarlison has not only lived the tough life before even becoming a professional footballer, but has lived the tough life as a professional footballer playing for Watford and Everton and for those managers. I think Jesus has kind of had a lot of, things handed to him in his kind of footballing career. I mean, his footballing career had a lot of things handed to him, and to call him this generational talent and all these sort of things, I just don't really get it. Like, they're the same age, and one of them starts for Brazil, which is a team that is probably has the most pressure out of any team maybe in world
100%.
football, even more than even England, you could say. And Richarlison's the starting striker. That's my kind of final point there.
I'm kind of gobsmacked. I'm kind of shell-shocked. I think he might have been able to convince me.
I don't know if I shouldn't have let you go first. That was
I was going to say
I put a lot of acting into it, to be fair. I put a lot of acting into it.
I was going to say, for me, when I specifically look at the question, you say which is a better deal. You pay him 45 million for a striker who is very good and will sort of suit that system that Arteta's playing. If he does play down the middle very, very, very well, obviously, because it is like I say, I don't think Arteta is a bad manager. Same way I don't think Pep's a bad manager, but I think Arteta needs players like Pep does, if you know what I mean. I don't think Pep necessarily would be able to do or be as successful as Klopp is with Liverpool and the way Liverpool sort of operates. So for me, Arteta, again, I think Arteta is an absolutely great manager. I'm not even going to lie to you. I think Arteta is a great manager. I do think to sort of Arsenal be your first club and you handle it so well and you sort of set that precedent of what you want, it's impressive from a manager. But there's nothing bad about me saying that he needs elite or very, very technical players to be able to play that system. So it's whether Arsenal are going to be willing to give him those players to do that. And if he is given sort of £50 million players in every position, Arsenal could go very, very far with him. But
Isn't it a bit naive though to need all those
that's the
technical
thing.
players to play
That's
that sort
the
of
thing.
system?
He
Because
doesn't
I
have the
know
credibility.
there's the Nagelsmanns and the
Yeah.
Thomas Tuchels of the world who have done it with Mainz and Hoffenheim. They play very technical systems. They play very technical games, and they had to figure out a way to do it with lesser talented players. And Arteta's asked for the best of the best, and still sometimes struggles.
I do think that's a very good point. I do think a lot more managers are being able to deal and create sort of systems and good competitive teams out of very little, or not the finished article, should I say? And I appreciate that from managers, which is why I do rate the managers that you mentioned a lot. But again, I don't think it's a bad thing if you want to play the sort of football that Arteta wants to play, which is, in my opinion, very similar to Pep's. He obviously had a time where he was trying to defensively sort out Arsenal, but he wants to play 4-3-3. If you do want that, you're going to need extremely technical players. So, and they're not going to come cheap. So I think it's a really good deal for the price for the player that they're going to get. I think he's going to have a big impact. I think he's going to have, and the reason I say it's a better deal is because of impact. I think he's going to have a bigger impact than Richarlison is going to have on Tottenham. That's However, everything you said about Richarlison now makes me think, well, if Richarlison, takes us to that next level, even with the 10 goals he scores, that's what I want from him, and that's what I ask from him. And if Jesus, doesn't hit the ground running or doesn't do well, it's going to be very difficult for them people to start justifying that price tag, and they're going to start seeing it as him being a flop. So as much
you feel
as
when we say the 10 goals, I think we're always forgetting 10 goals for who? 10 goals for Rafa Benitez and Frank Lampard's Everton. It's do you really expect someone to get more than 12 goals in a team
so true.
that?
And I saw a comment that big respect to Leslie in the comments. She mentioned sort of Richarlison's average goals being over the 4 seasons being 10. You can't see him getting 10. I understand that, and I completely see that point. However, Richarlison wasn't playing with Kane, Son, and Kulusevski, and I do think and I saw this in the, albeit pre-seasons, I saw it in the pre-seasons, he was putting in some very good crosses from that right side, and I do think Richarlison will play off that right side more times than he might play off the left in terms of swapping with Kulusevski. So for me, you've done really well to convince me that Richarlison is just as good as Jesus. But my initial thoughts was, I think Jesus will have a bigger impact, and that for me is a better reason as to why he will be worth the money more. And again, it's a balancing scale. He could sort of do really well or do really badly, I think, whereas Richarlison has a little bit more leeway to, not necessarily flop, but if Richarlison doesn't score 20 goals in the season, he'll probably only have played maybe 3,000. I don't even know if he'll get 3,000 minutes. I think maybe we might get less. So he'll have a reason for maybe explaining the lack of goals. Jesus has to hit the ground running. These Arsenal fans, I've seen how they behave. They want and expect him to score 20 goals this season minimum, and that's a lot to ask from a player. So, and it's difficult. They say he's
only two players that hit 20 goals this season. They think he's going to be one of the 2 players to hit 20 goals. That's why I think we even forget about even Richarlison's record for Watford and Everton. There aren't many players that get over 10 goals in a Premier League season for Watford and Everton.
Did Dennis score 10 last season?
Yeah, that's what makes Dennis exceptional, is that he got 10 as well. And that makes him, kind of exceptional, is because he was a guy that did it for a Watford team. And that's why we give him that credit, because it's look what he did with a team that sacked its manager every 2 months, sort of player. And I think the same thing is then attributed to Richarlison. It's look at what he's done for horrible, teammates, just terrible managers that have really no idea what they're doing with the players that they have. I just feel like it's pretty impressive what Richarlison's done. And if he weren't, a worse player than Jesus, I think, the most important national team in the world, in the case of Brazil, would probably put Jesus ahead of him if they thought Richarlison, was the worst player. And it also shows that even if Richarlison's not as technically gifted or something as Jesus, there's a lot of teams that seem to think that Richarlison offers something that Jesus doesn't, whatever that may be to you. There clearly is something that he seems to offer that they don't think Jesus does. And my final point is why I also do think this is a fantastic transfer for Spurs, Darius. And everybody that is tuning in, feel free to go back if you do want to kind of hear my slight little rant about Richarlison. But We've ended the transfer saga when it comes to the backup Harry Kane role. Darius, like Spurs have finally just shut everybody up when it comes to that sort of situation. It was some people's, kind of number one transfer issue to deal with is like, let's end this saga with the number 9, with the backup number 9. And finally we've done it. And Richarlison being the answer, I think is just beautiful. It just looks right. Him with the number 9 on his shirt, it just looks right. It makes sense. I'm excited.
Same. I think you did a great job of, and like I said, I won't be bothered if Richarlison doesn't score 20 goals. I think he has so many other reasons and facets that can contribute to this team. He will be fine. Whereas Jesus really is there for the goals. And if he doesn't, as much as his build-up play could be amazing and, his creativity could be amazing, they're not looking for that. And that's that at the end of the day, maybe what you want from your striker. But again, I'm confident Richarlison can contribute in many other ways.
Well, I decided, to then, bring in some other ones here, for, to kind of test our minds. Darwin Nunez with Dusan Vlahovic, I think, was actually a more fair comparison for Darwin Nunez. That's what Transfermarkt told me, with Dusan Vlahovic. What do you think, Darius? If you really compare these two prices, they are both heavy.
Can we? Is Allegri tax a thing? Are we allowing Allegri tax?
Yeah, especially from two Italian clubs. True.
I feel so bad for Juve, man, because, and especially all players like Vlahovic and Chiesa, because Allegri has got them playing. Well, last season had them playing. They were playing all right at one stage, but it got pretty poor, and it was pretty poor throughout the whole season. There's no sort of attacking build-up in Juventus, and it's difficult for Vlahovic to have an impact on the game. So
he has a lot of pressure, I think, coming up this next season.
Is it his fault? I don't know, man. That's why I don't really want to blame him for the fee, and the system is not helping him. It's not catered towards him. And I haven't seen anything from Darwin yet. If I was going to make a prediction, I think Vlahovic had a massive part to Juve actually getting into the top 4. So I do think in that sense, they looked like they were really well and truly done. There was a stage where they looked like they could potentially clamber for a title challenge again, which obviously didn't work out. But yeah, I don't think Darwin's going to lead Liverpool to a title, which is maybe why he was signed. Whereas the Juve team that's being built currently, I mean, they could be pushing for a title next season. I think Juve are going a bit under the radar as well with their signings that they've made, and especially with the signings they made in January as well. Juve could definitely do something quite special. Well, not special because I expect them to be up there, but they could definitely get back to where they were. Because how long has it been since they've won the league now? I think it's been 2 years, 2 seasons, 2 or 3 seasons now, and that's kind of crazy to hear from Juve. So yeah, I think Vlahovic is going to be the better deal.
Do you think he has more pressure on his shoulders going into next season than Darwin does? I think you could make the case that he, in fact, does have more pressure going into next season.
I think Darwin has more pressure, only because I do think with the arrival of Pogba, Pogba's going to not ease the pressure, but that he's a bigger scapegoat than Vlahovic will be, I think, Paul Pogba, even though he was on a free. So if people are going to blame Juve's downfall, I think it will be more down to Pogba than Vlahovic, whereas it already seems apparent to me that maybe rival fans, not necessarily Liverpool fans, but rival fans are already sort of targeting Darwin Nunez as like a player who, if he doesn't score straight away, he's not doing well. And he may have, amazing games and try hard and hit the post 3 times in a game, but nobody's going to care about that because he's brought in to replace that output that Mane had given to them. So I think more pressure's on Darwin, to be fair with you.
I can't disagree with that. I think if I were to take human emotion and all these things in the world that exist in every single facet of society, then I think I could make the case that Vlahovic is actually the one with more pressure, just because the fee is so gargantuan. And
I didn't realize it was that big.
And also, like you said, with how Allegri plays, like he is going to rely heavily on those strikers, to get the goals, kind of against the run of play when they need it, to rely on and kind of, have a standing foot. And I know Vlahovic was from, the winter transfer window, but I feel like there's just so much pressure on his shoulders to get, 15, 16, 17 goals at least, in the Serie A. Whereas with Darwin Nunez, let's say it flops, like they still have Jota, they still have Firmino, to, help out, in case it doesn't go well there. So I feel like Darwin Nunez's will be talked about more. Like, I think that'll get more press, which is why you're right. Darwin Nunez's will get more press, but there is a lot of, I think, pressure on Vlahovic's shoulders to, like, produce the goods next season.
Yeah, it's crunch time now. Strikers, the price of strikers is ridiculous now. I guess it's because they are a rarity, that sort of number 9s like these guys. But unfortunately, the fee's a fee, and if you want to move and you sort of are forcing your way, because Vlahovic I don't really feel sorry for. He wanted to go to Juve. He sort of said he was going to stay at Fiorentina and ended up going in January. I think is a little bit of a sneaky move in my opinion. I know you got to think about your own career. You've got to think about your own future. But if you're telling a club that you've been at for a long time, that's your heart, and you're going to get them to Europe before you leave. Yeah, you better do amazing at the club you leave.
He's also though. Vlahovic, just quickly, he is 2 years younger than.
How old is Vlahovic? Only 22, 23?
Isn't he like 21 or 22 or something? Yeah. Maybe he's only a year younger than Darwin Nunez, but he is younger as well. So I think he is a way better player than Darwin, too, if you ask me. So
definitely.
I think he has more pressure. If it were like, I don't know, if you just wanted somebody to get to 17 goals, I think there's more pressure on, Vlahovic to get to 17 goals, but I think you made a very good point. Like, who's actually going to be in the tabloids more? It's going to be Darwin Nunez, if he doesn't perform. That's a good answer there. So it seems like we've, said Darwin, but a good one. And I don't know about you, but did you think maybe Bissouma would have been a clever choice for Man City if they had actually gone after, him instead? In fact, I think Bissouma would have slotted into that midfield more seamlessly than Calvin Phillips does, because I think Calvin Phillips is going to compete with Rodri. Rodri had one of his best ever seasons in a Man City shirt. I used to kind of not rate him too highly until this last season, where I did think he looked exceptional. And I feel like Calvin Phillips, he is a defensive midfielder. That's sort of his position. Bissouma can play as a defensive midfielder. You can also play, more in that 4-3-3 as kind of like a number 8. I feel like Bissouma would have been a really clever option for Man City, but Spurs, just were a bit quicker to the gun.
I'll be honest. I think Bissouma would have been better suited for Liverpool. I think
he would have been better suited for Liverpool, better suited for Man City, better suited for Chelsea.
United need a DM, and Bissouma can play in that position.
Would have been best suited for any team.
I honestly think we got so lucky with this guy. I'm willing to say he's top 3. He could be top 3 signings in the entire window, in the entire of the top 5 leagues, in my opinion, solely for the price. He's a £50 million centre mid. You could even say higher. The fact that he had a year on his deal, we got in there, we managed to secure it. This is going to change. This is going to have the biggest impact on the way we play and our 11 out of all the signings we've made so far. Not Perisic, not Spence, not Richarlison, not Longley. I firmly believe that Bissouma is going to have the biggest impact, and he might not start necessarily. I think I would want him to start. I really would want him to start with Bentancur or Højbjerg, but he's going to force his way into this team. He's going to be too important, just the ball recoveries to helping out the likes of Dyer. I think Dyer probably is going to look a lot better, maybe because of Bissouma's sort of ball winning ability. So he's going to make a lot of players look better around him as well. He's going to make Romero look even better. I think he's going to have an amazing season. And price range wise, ability wise, I don't think they're far off. In fact, I'd probably say Bissouma is a better player than Calvin Phillips. I think
he's a better player as well.
Maybe
the point I'm trying to say here that I feel like Bissouma should have been signed by.
Yeah,
maybe we're just trying to emphasize how good of a signing this was. Any team would have benefited from Bissouma. You couldn't say that with Calvin Phillips. I don't know if Spurs had signed Calvin Phillips, I'd be like, why did we just sign Højbjerg? Like again.
Yeah. Højbjerg with better ball distribution, to be fair with you. He's got a fantastic long ball on him, Calvin Phillips.
He's got a good long ball, but like Højbjerg, you could even argue better and better threaded balls, like through balls. Like Højbjerg can play, those dink little kind of passes, and pull out an outside the foot, kind of curved pass and like things like that, where I've never seen Calvin Phillips do that, whereas Bissouma is clear head and shoulders above Højbjerg, above Bentancur, above all of them. If Calvin Phillips came into the Spurs team, I don't really know if he like outplaces everybody, right
For me,
away.
Bissouma would have been a great sort of not replacement, but the prodigy to Fabinho at Liverpool. If they didn't get Bellingham, which I think they still probably will next season, they'll probably compete with United maybe. I thought Bissouma resembles Fabinho a lot in the way that he cleans up and he's just so dominant and he's a presence in that midfield. I am so excited, as you can tell, for this signing. 26.2 million for this guy, 25 years old. My lord, we are in for a treat. I think it's a no-brainer. I don't know if all of the Paxton Army, sorry, Flat Cap Army, for all of the Flat Cap
Army,
Paxton
Army's in the house
Paxton
as well.
Army is
So
Flat Cap Army, yeah,
accurate.
of course. You almost agree with us because I don't even think you could debate this, and I'm not even trying to disrespect Calvin Phillips. I think Calvin Phillips
He's
is
a top four midfielder. That's the point. Bissouma, he's a top four midfielder.
Is incredible, and he has the skill set and the attributes to, like you said, impact every team around us. Whereas Calvin Phillips is more specifically catered, I think, to Man City. And don't get me wrong, I think he'll probably do amazing at Man City. But no, there's only one answer to this. Bissouma is the winner for me, and Alexander, obviously, you agree with us.
The other thing as well is when you think about the midfield that Man City could have had if they had said Bissouma, Rodri, Bissouma, De Bruyne.
Yeah, scary. I don't even want to play that.
He fixes all of their defensive issues. Like, I know they have a high line, but if you had Bissouma and Rodri as kind of, the guys to be able to track back and have a bit more of a defensive awareness, than the other players they put there, that would just be incredible. I think they really should have signed Bissouma, actually, because he would be able to play alongside Rodri, Bissouma. Whereas Calvin Phillips, is he going to play alongside Rodri? I feel like he's just the Rodri backup.
I think it's going to be Calvin Phillips and Rodri rotating, and then they're going to play two. And
then you would sign Bissouma because Bissouma can then fill in for Rodri as the deep lying, kind of defensive midfielder in case, something happens to Rodri. So this would have been a better signing for them, if you ask me. Definitely. Mixing it up here, we're going all over the place just to keep people entertained. Dortmund against Bayern in a sort of kind of transfer battle. In the back end, it seemed like Darius did like this, kind of, especially with the recent signing of De Ligt. I think it, maybe makes it fairer competition. Actually, did forget this, everybody. I think there's been some really tragic news, actually, with Sebastian Haller. I actually totally forgot about that when typing that in, actually, because I made this quite early. So everybody, I think, thoughts and prayers, of course, to Sebastian Haller. And I don't even know what to say, really, apart from everybody just, wish him and his family and all of his friends, kind of the best, because, it's really heartbreaking. The guy's honestly had a lot of unlucky moments.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of unlucky moments, it feels like, in his sort of kind of life or his career, if you ask me. So, Sebastian, best of thoughts to him. But going to keep it in still a positive mindset. You still have to look at just how good of a player he is, though. What a signing, I think, for, getting a tall, striker back in. They've continued that, kind of form with Erling Haaland, with, I think, at one stage, Batshuayi was there, and he actually had a good a good loan spell as a big striker. At Dortmund, the big strikers have done well. Karim Adeyemi, I mean, I don't even think I need to tell you or anybody, Darius, that's just a ridiculous signing. Schlotterbeck is also an incredible signing. Schlotterbeck is also an insane signing. And Zali Özkan, the Turkish international coming up from Köln, I think is also highly rated. I can't really speak to him, but a lot of people have told me he's really highly rated. And then Niklas Süle on a free to kind of replace Mats Hummels. I just, honestly, they solved so many problems, Dortmund. They really have solved so many problems.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Dortmund has a special place in my heart. I absolutely love the club from top to bottom. If Tottenham was to never have existed, I would have been a Dortmund fan. I love Dortmund and everything they stand for. However, as much as I wanted to admit, Dortmund could actually win the league and this could be Dortmund's season, Bayern Munich just they don't know when to stop, do they? It's almost becoming a joke at this point now.
These are all Hollywood. What's so funny, it's FC Hollywood, right? Is what Bayern is called. These are FC Hollywood signings.
And they're still doing it under budget. They're still doing it in a budget as well and getting them for actually good deals. I mean, De Ligt, for me personally, I actually don't think that's a bad deal at all.
No, he's worth that much. Yeah,
I know he's going to work out at Bayern Munich. Like, for me, it's obvious he's going to work out at Bayern Munich. He's going to win cups. He'll probably become the captain. The guy's 22. He was captain in Ajax.
No, he's worth that much. It's still a steal. It's still a steal.
Obviously, Juve have been pretty crappy since he got there. I think he joined at an awkward time. Again, I'm not even going to speak on De Ligt. I do think it's same with if De Jong goes to Man United. That will be an incredible deal for United, regardless of the price, because these players are just insane players. And yeah, just going back onto Dortmund, you look at Haller. Obviously, God bless Haller. I hope everything is all right with him. But that price there is fantastic for Haller. Adeyemi, like you say, needs to say anymore. I can't wait to start watching Adeyemi more regularly now.
Quickly, does that show that Daniel Malen, they got that guy and he kind of fell flat on his face, kind of
difficult, hasn't it? Do you think
he looked bad in the Bundesliga whenever I watched him? Like he really
might start on the left.
Chances.
Do you think that
I just feel like maybe with the signing, I think Adeyemi is a necessary signing, even if Daniel Malen did do well. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm going to get a super off topic here, but I'm starting to think that there is a bigger drop off from the Eredivisie to the rest of Europe in general than we think. Because the fact that Daniel Malen sort of struggled when coming into the Bundesliga, when you kind of think that it's kind of tailor-made for him to do well, transitioning from the Eredivisie, makes you think that, sometimes some of the Eredivisie talents, like, there could be that bigger risk, involved. But that's a completely different, subject, if you ask me. But I am interested.
Difficult for me to disagree with you. As much as I want to admit I love the Dutch league and the teams and the way they approach football and sort of bringing their academies and youth through, but we haven't seen many successes from there so far. Manager wise, I do think you could get good quality from, but maybe those players are more suited to other styles of football, and that's not a bad thing at all. For example,
I think it's just the opponents. I just think it's like the way I've heard it before. Someone said that Dutch teams, they all just play the same way, even if they're a relegation like team, like in the Dutch league, they'll play the same way, that like PSV do, or something like that, and it ends up kind of being a bit easier where everybody's playing a high line, everybody's playing progressive football, and it makes it easier for teams. I think the Bundesliga is sort of guilty of that as well.
I was just about to say that,
but this is why you would then think, why did Daniel Malen then struggle if he went to a league where he's super pacey and he has all that space in behind to run into, and he struggled with it, which doesn't make sense.
It may be a shadow thing, being in the shadow of Haaland. I don't know what it is. I think there's a lot
maybe
of
that's a good point.
He may come out of his shadow a bit more, where now the team isn't relying on just one sort of source for goals. I think Adeyemi is going to have to pitch in. I think Royce is still going to have to continue his amazing season. I think Royce had an underrated season last season. Incredible player, one of the most underrated players of this generation. The centre backs is Schlotterbeck for the price is an unreal signing. Sula for free is an unreal signing. Obviously, I think it might be a little bit of not a challenge necessarily, because obviously Dortmund play a high line. I think Sula might get caught out, but he's quality enough for it to not have detrimental.
He's just a Mats Hummels
like the same mistakes you'll get from Mats Hummels, because I get frustrated with Mats Hummels sometimes because he does make mistakes that you think you shouldn't be doing that, but then at the same time it's just his skill set and his his attributes.
One of the best still in the world in possession.
Yeah, he still has his other qualities outshine sort of the negatives that you get of it. So I think the same for Sula. His presence is going to be much better than Diallo and Hummels. I think Schlotterbeck and Sula is an instant upgrade.
Also, just if they do a back three, they have Akanji, who's also really good in possession. Akanji is also really good in
possession. I meant to say Akanji, not Diallo. Diallo went to PSG, didn't he? That's what I was thinking.
I really rate Akanji. Is
Akanji left-footed? I'm pretty sure he's right-footed. He's right-footed. So you'd see Schlotterbeck on, he would go, he's left-footed, isn't he, Schlotterbeck? So
and I think Akanji could play. I think they might still go for a back.
Sula would go through the middle for me. And then that'd be really good, mate. That's a good shout. Good. That's a really big back three as well.
Dortmund's smarter, I think it's a big brain sort of window that they went for, very big brain. whereas Bayern went for the very flashy ones while being under budget, like you said, while being under budget.
It's a
They
joke.
needed a right back, and they needed an attacking right back. So the Mazraoui transfer is probably their best one. I think it's their best one.
And now Kimmich won't play right back at all anymore. Now he will be solely playing
or
for
Pavard.
Pavard.
You know, I just think it's very clever there. Gravenberch, I think, was needed, but I'm interested in where he'll actually play. Sadio Mane, I think he's more of a Goretzka sort of replacement. Gravenberch,
I was going to say that,
Goretzka offers you that kind of X factor, and I feel like Gravenberch will be kind of similar, like an X factor sort of, you know, midfielder that's just world class. Sadio Mane is going to be really interesting. Like, could he replace the output of Lewandowski? Probably not, but maybe he might do it in a different sort of way, and also the way that Nagelsmann likes to play. Who knows? Sadio Mane might be more geared to how Nagelsmann wants to play. You know, I could be wrong, but I think that's interesting. And then Matthias de Ligt with, you know, basically, you know, the new center back, the new Beckenbauer, maybe for them for like the next, you know, 10 years. I think it's
that's the club he's going to stay at, by the way. I don't see him leaving until he reaches, you know, maybe early 30s. I think he'll be there. I think Juve, I never thought he was going to stay at Juve for long. I thought he was going to go to Barcelona from Ajax. I can see, and you know what? For me, I always said Bayern Munich was a perfect place for him to go to. I think he'll stay there for a long time. So 60 million, when you look at it, will be worth it in the end. He's going to win trophies.
As much as we rate Bayern here, I think I might give it to Dortmund though, and especially if they signed a midfielder. Like, I know they signed Özcan, but if they signed another midfielder, I feel like
they
I think it's very big brain window, very big brain from them. And they used to have really bad windows. Dortmund used to have really questionable windows, and they're kind of getting back on track.
They've had really mid windows for a long time, to be fair with you. And I think it almost feels like Dortmund gave up with potentially being able to challenge for titles. For me, with a window like that, I know Aiden Terzic has won the DFL Pokal with them, and I think that's a great achievement for him to do that. But he's not a title-winning manager. He has great familiarity, would be an amazing assistant or backup second man to a not a proper manager, should I say, because that's disrespectful to him, but to a manager with more credentials is a better way of saying it. For me, it was a no-brainer. I was begging Poch to go to Dortmund. They probably wouldn't have paid him the wage that he wanted, but Poch to Dortmund with those sort of signings, because these aren't sort of youngsters that, you know, Poch has to mold. These are youngsters that, or some of them are, especially the likes of Adeyemi. These are young players
I think you're right.
He can actually, you know, potentially compete with, because it's only Bayern he has to compete with. He's not competing with Chelsea, City, and Liverpool as he was doing at Spurs. So Poch, for me, would have made Dortmund serious title contenders with the window they had. But for me, unfortunately, Terzic is a great man manager and knows the club through and through. But those four signings alone, I can't look past. I can't look past the price and the impact they're going to have on the 11. I'm very interested to see who's going to play up front as well for Bayern now. I think Mane may go through the middle. They may go two up front. Gnabry and Mane, Muller behind them maybe. I have no idea what to expect. So I love Dortmund, and every single one of their signings are great, but I've still got to give it to Bayern. I'm sorry, Jack. I think Bayern, they might be my winners for the whole window if their sense
behind all those signings, despite how big of names those are, and you want to like give it to Dortmund. I'm giving it to Dortmund, but there's sense behind the Bayern signings too. There's a lot of sense behind those ones. And
the Gravenberch one for me stands out the most. The Mane and Gravenberch stands out the most for me. I don't know how they've gotten both those players for a combined price of £45 million almost. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you feel like we should have gone for like Niklas Zula? I did a video a long time ago on this channel saying we should have, but not many people watched it or really seemed to care. You know, when I put that video up, and
I had a tweet saying similar.
No to Zula. Now everybody wants him. You know,
I had a tweet saying similar. I had a tweet that I think I mentioned even in January, the January window, where I was like, we could players that we could confirm as frees or you know, sign as frees in the summer, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned Zula's name just because that presence alone, mixed with the ball play,
he'd be similar to Dyer. Really,
it would be similar to Dyer. He would have been great. Oh well, I think he's going to do. I'm happy. You know what? I'm happy that Zula is the player that's now done the Bayern to Dortmund as opposed to Dortmund to Bayern. I've been waiting for that to happen, and we haven't seen a lot of sort of buying to Dortmund in recent time. I think obviously the last time might have been Hummels, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm very happy to see Süle still and Dortmund still be seen as, that big second club in Germany. Leipzig again. Leipzig, be careful for Leipzig. They kept on to Nkunku. They're going to seem to keep on to Szoboszlai as well. So
Gvardiol as well.
Never know what Leipzig could do as well. Tedesco is a great manager. Sure. So yeah, there's lots to be excited
Bundesliga
about.
looking good. Bundesliga looking good. All the big leagues are looking good outside.
It's really true. Yeah.
La Liga. Oh. This is kind of more of a quick fire one, if you ask me. Ferran Torres, I know you've heard me kind of think that this was a shocking transfer by Barcelona, and I still think it is, because whenever I've watched Ferran Torres, even for Barcelona, he does a great job at tearing apart teams, but this guy misses so many sitters. He misses so many sitters. I think Ferran Torres does. I just feel like he's so overrated. I just think he's overrated. 49.5 million. I think he's a great addition to that team. Maybe I'll digress and say he's still a great addition to that team, but they just overpaid for him. 49.5 million, now 52.5 million according to Transfermarkt, and add-ons, as we know, of course, for Rafinha. Just quick fire, Darius. Better deal for me is Rafinha. Yeah. The one with more pressure is Rafinha. Yeah. But this just then speaks to how, when I originally said in the January transfer window, when we did a review of it together, this is how bad I thought that Ferran Torres transfer was, because I was just like, why are they going after Rafinha if they just bought Ferran Torres for 50 million?
I might have messed up thinking that I was saying the opposite, Jack. I was thinking, wow. I was thinking Ferran Torres, the price is a lot, but that's a play that you can sort of get out of.
You don't buy Rafinha.
He was playing so well for City. That's what's annoying. He was doing so well for City, and it was like, who's going to sign this guy? If City don't want him and he's actually scoring goals for City, then who's going to sign him? And I thought that was a great deal for Barcelona. I know he came from, was it Valencia? If I'm not mistaken.
Ferran went from Valencia,
So obviously he was doing well, and he was always in Spain, but man, I mean, it's not really worked out. I think, like I said, no brainer on
a broke
the
club as well. Club with no money. It's like 10,
it's crazy. I think the more interesting question, because I think, like you said, I think it's easy. Rafinha is the better deal. The more interesting question is, who on earth are Barcelona going to play in that front three next year? Because they could literally probably put out 2 front threes with the team that they've got, and they both be quality.
Still, yeah.
Is it going to be Fatty Lewandowski, Rafinha? Fatty Lewandowski,
Aubameyang is still there.
Aubameyang's still there.
Ousmane Dembele, they kept around.
They've got Barcelona surprised me, man. I think Barcelona done a really good window, and I know that necessarily people have been caught up with the whole debt and money issues, but I think it was never really a cash issue with Barcelona. It was more a wage issue with them, and every player that's signing for them is basically being told you can't earn more than, I think it's like 6 million net a year, so like 115k a week. So they clearly want to join the club. Dembele took a 40% wage cut. Lewandowski, I assume, took a wage cut. Rafinha probably didn't go up in, didn't probably get offered near enough the same money at Chelsea than he did from Barcelona. So yeah, I mean, Barcelona are building, but still can't hide away from this poor deal, and it did turn out to be a poor deal. You're right, Jack.
Welsh gal saying, we keep hearing Barca have no money, yet they keep signing players. She's bringing up a really good point. Here's how I'm sort of understanding it, Welsh gal, is Barca don't have money that they can really give to people right away. Like when what is it? In the case of Jed Spence, we paid 13 million, like almost like a PayPal kind of transfer. 13 million is available right now to give you. I don't really feel like Barcelona has that much cash on hand available to them. Most of the cash they have on hand available to them has come from that Spotify, situation. And Barcelona, if they could have, Barcelona would never have turned it into the Spotify Camp Nou. They would have kept it as the Camp Nou. But they had to sell their rights in order to get that extra money. On top of that, I've known that they've taken a series of loans, and they've been using those loans, you could say maybe not so wisely in the Ferran Torres sort of situation. And then lastly is everybody seems to want to play for Barcelona. So when everybody wants to play for Barcelona, you can sort of negotiate deals in a complicated and very structured way so that I guess everybody's kind of happy. That seems to be the case with Lewandowski. It's like, I feel like they negotiated something with, Barcelona or with Bayern that, made Bayern happy. They did not have the money right away, I don't think, for Lewandowski. I don't think they do. But they're sort of like finding a way to negotiate. And also on top of this, Welsh Gal, to maybe just prove that they don't actually have that much money and they are still in financial trouble, they can't pay their players properly. And
that's a crazy situation.
And I know there are people coming out saying, "Oh, it's like a really structured deal with how they're paying their players." It is, but it's unorthodox. Like,
have you heard about sort of what they've been doing? Because I did a bit of research.
Just quickly, they haven't even paid, I think, Memphis Depay, right? When Memphis Depay first came into the club, he wasn't getting paid. Franck Kessie, they haven't really been able to officially announce forever because he really isn't getting paid yet. Like, they can't really confirm his wages. Ferran Torres, the same person. Ferran Torres, the guy they paid 50 million for, they technically weren't paying for like the first 3 months or like something like that. Ridiculous. So I heard, because they were finding it hard to register him because he wasn't actually being officially paid by the club. So I know it seems like, they have the money. They do have the money, but they don't have the money like every other club has the money. They have the money in like a special Barcelona effed up way.
And they'll always get those privileges, won't they, being Barcelona? I mean, Real Madrid will even want to save Barcelona because that's going to keep those guys, obviously not relevant because they are the biggest club in the world, but it will keep La Liga sort of seen as the second or third best league in the world. And for me, the contracts is an interesting one. Only I don't want to go on too much about it, but sort of with the case with Frankie de Jong and his deferred wages, PK has deferred wages. Like, Barcelona will pay PK the money that he deserves
is eventually owed
when they financially are capable of doing it. De Jong doesn't have deferred wages. De Jong restructured his contract as to where when he has, I believe when he has 2 years left on his deal, his weekly wage will go up to something like 400k a week. So what Barcelona have done is smart. Like, if they sell De Jong to Manchester United, which is what they're trying to do, they're trying to flog him out as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. They don't actually owe him any money because he wouldn't have actually deferred his wages because he wouldn't have been in that stage of his contract, which is why De Jong's digging his heels in, because he's potentially could, get his wage maybe get tripled or quadrupled in that space, or doubled or whatever it is. So
I think so, yeah.
Barcelona they're trying their hardest to work around this, and I credit them for doing it because it ain't Laporta's fault that this has happened. Alemany is not his fault that this has happened. Bartomeu has ruined the club. However, they got a bit too big for their britches, and any club paying Antoine Griezmann 800 grand a week should be punished. So, in
my eyes, any club paying 50 million for Ferran Torres
should be punished. So, I mean, okay, yeah, cool. They've brought a lot of good players in, and I think they're moving in the right direction. I think Kessie, you forget that they signed him. They're still trying to negotiate with Azpilicueta. They still haven't even registered Christensen, I don't believe. I'm pretty sure that deal was almost confirmed as well. So, yeah, man, Barcelona.
Even if this were PSG, I'd criticize that Torres transfer. Like, that's how harsh I am about Torres. Like, I think Torres is a good player. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I think he's terrible or anything. I just don't think the fees that he's gone for are any way justified. And I also think he misses sitter after sitter after sitter after sitter.
It'll be interesting. They've definitely fleshed out that team, and they obviously are going to find a way to
even the Real Madrid or the El Clasico game, I remember in particular, where Barcelona even tore apart Real Madrid.
That's going to be a good one this year, isn't it? I mean,
Ferran Torres could have had 2 separate hat tricks. I remember
that is going to be a great.
He's the Spanish Raheem Sterling. He's the Spanish Raheem Sterling when it comes to finishing.
He learned too much from him.
This is another one I think that's actually fascinating. Maybe a good one to. I'm not sure how long this one will take us, but
no,
two very different players. One of them is coming in to maybe fix that creative problem that's needed over with Allegri, and the other one is just coming in to beef up that midfield. I might, as much as I want to say that the Pogba one is actually my favorite, I think the Kessie one, you could see how it makes sense because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's really just Busquets, Pedri, and Gavi is kind of like
I
the
was just about to
main
say, yeah.
midfielders. Who else is there? Sorry, and De Jong, of course. But
Yeah, that's it. That's it, really. I
and
couldn't
so
think of
with
it.
the signing of Kessie, it just makes sense. Like it just makes sense that signing. I know maybe you're confused. Some people seem to be confused. Is he replacing Busquets? Is he replacing De Jong? Is he, what does he play in that team? I just think he does a variety of different roles, and that's sort of the type of technician that he is as a player. And it's a good signing. It's not as glamorous as the Pogba signing. It didn't come with a private jet flight and things like that. But I don't know. I think the Kessie one is the one that I think is a smarter signing. The Pogba one is the one that I'm going to be like watching, if that makes sense.
Technically, he's good enough, I think, to play. He's not obviously the technically elite player that maybe Xavi and Barcelona envision their midfielders to be, but he's technically good enough. He's good at dribbling. He's good at getting past his player. To partner him with the technical eliteness, is that a word? I think I'm not too sure. To partner that with the technical eliteness of Pedri, because Pedri's technical ability is elite in my opinion. I think he's generational when it comes to that. I think it's a good partnership to have. I think even if they don't play as him as a lone six, like how Busquets plays, sort of picking up the ball, because I don't think that's his role. I think they sort of might be moving to a 2-1. Maybe Gavi playing as that number 10 in front. Maybe even one of the forwards, the many forwards that they've got, sort of playing in that hole. So, or they could go back to Xavi's three at the back that he was doing at is it outside? I think he was at. So yeah, there's many. I think he's just a good player. There's many places and positions and roles he can fit in.
Pogba is joining Locatelli, Zakaria, McKennie, Rabiot. Rabiot I don't rate, but
I don't really know, but that's a really good midfield. That's Zakaria Pogba double pivot is flipping scary.
Kessie seems more necessary when you kind of put again like
De
Jong. If De Jong leaves, they need Kessie. They need him if De Jong leaves. So
Pogba does feel like that typical luxury signing.
It's not as cool looking. It's not as cool looking as the Pogba signing, but it seems to make sense.
Pogba is the true definition of a luxury signing. He does bring the quality, and also don't get me wrong, I think him and Lukaku are both gonna have good seasons this season, just solely because of the way that Serie A is played and sort of the slower pace and more attention to tactics that is in the Serie A. I think Pogba's gonna have the time to pick out those Hollywood passes. You're gonna see Pogba comps come back. Pogba comps are definitely gonna come back on everybody's Twitter. Yep. He's gonna be spraying 50-60 yard passes every game in that team to Vlahovic winning the ball. I can already see Pogba doing well at Juve, which is why I think he chose. It may not. Is it the easier option than Real Madrid? Maybe, but I think Pogba doesn't care about that. I think he wants to feel. I think
La Liga is an easier league, so
it's probably an easier league. But I think that Juve and the midfield is going to be surrounded by, like you said, if you've got Dennis Zakaria, Weston McKennie, and Locatelli, who all are hard-working midfielders, he's not going to have to do, especially if you play Zakaria or McKennie next to him. He ain't doing much work at all. I mean, he could even play behind them both and completely have a free role in that middle area and do really well. So I think Pogba's going to do better, but I actually think Kessie is the more important one, if that makes sense. Can Pogba do better and Kessie still be more important? Because that's how I feel. I think Pogba will stats wise and to obviously everybody watching him, he's going to look like he's had a better season. But like you say, Kessie will fly under the radar, will be that solid rock that allows Gavi, Pedri to do their thing and become creative hubs of Barcelona. So yeah, I'm happy with it.
Just quickly again, maybe more rapid fire here, with these Fabio Vieira and Vitinha. They look identical twins here. One of them did have 6 goals and 11 assists in the Primera Liga. Here's how I broke it down. Vitinha has a better highlight reel. Fabio Vieira has better numbers.
Yeah.
Also, when I watch Fabio Vieira, he actually looks identical to kind of Odegaard with how he plays. So I'm interested how that will work.
I personally think
like they have enough Odegaards in the team. I feel like they have enough of those kind of Odegaard-like players. They already have Emile Smith-Rowe. It's like another number 10 to add to the 2 or 3 number 10s they already have. Maybe that's just how Arteta likes to play, but I feel like
personally think,
Fabio Vieira one's a better deal. I think it is a better deal, but Vitinha did have a better highlight package, so that's all I can say. Much better.
It seems like Arsenal are definitely going down that route of they're not going to want to play Xhaka and El Neni or Partey and Xhaka or Partey and El Neni. I think their aim is to play Partey as a sole number 6 and have 2 really creative, attack-minded. Almost you can call them box to box, because I think Odegaard could play as a box to box 8, but he also has that quality to be an attacking midfielder. So I think you will see in the end of it, it will be either Smith Rowe and Odegaard and Vieira, or Smith Rowe and Vieira playing those 2 roles, and then Partey holding playing that role. That's what I think Arteta's aiming for. But I won't lie, Vieira's a good player. Is he going to come in and hit the ground running like Bruno did? I don't know. He does have not the same numbers as Bruno, because Bruno's numbers in Portugal were beyond stupid, but he has very good numbers for the player that he is. Vitinha, I think it will probably look like the better signing Vitinha because of the team he's playing for. So obviously he'll probably get a title. He'll probably have more time on the ball. More.
I think Vieira is a better one. I do think
Vieira is the better signing. And he's like every person that I know who's very either Portuguese or fan of the Portuguese league, like even rival fans of Arsenal, have said this signing's going under the radar. Vieira is a fantastic player. So, and the track record of Portuguese players coming out of that Premier League is very, very good. So
I don't know if the price is really like
expensive. Definitely,
it's definitely, you're not like getting a deal on the price. But if he does end up, let's say let's say he just ends up getting similar numbers to like an Odegaard did when Odegaard came into that team, I think you could then say like, yeah, great signing. But if he doesn't, I think you could say slightly questionable. I think he has to get basically the numbers that Odegaard did, because Odegaard, as good as he's been for Arsenal, the numbers aren't through the roof, So I think he just essentially has to meet what Odegaard did. That's what I would say. I think still a better transfer though. Lisandro Martinez against De Ligt. I think this is clear and obvious what probably the better one is, but it is kind of interesting that Ten Hag couldn't or maybe didn't go after his former man, who was at Juventus. He's gone for Lisandro Martinez, and the fact that these are only 9 million in difference apart, and I think De Ligt includes the add-ons. I think that includes the add-ons. I think the De Ligt deal too. So do kind of as much as Lisandro Martinez. People rate Lisandro Martinez, but it's a heavy fee. It's a heavy fee.
Again, I think De Ligt gets scrutinized a little bit too much for the team that he was playing in. I think he's had issues at Juventus, but I don't think they're all his fault. And I think at Bayern, where he's going to be a lot more comfortable, the football is going to be a lot more similar to the way that Ajax play. I think he's going to be amazing. I also think Lisandro is going to do good. I think he has every quality and attribute. Obviously, he played for Ten Hag to be a great centre-back in a system for Ten Hag.
I think he will do well.
It's whether, like I said, is he, because he's known to, I think the reason why he maybe chose to go to Man U over Arsenal was because I think Arteta was looking at him to be a little bit more of a utility player, to play sort of as backup to Tierney and potentially Gabriel, whereas he wanted to solely be a centre-back. And I think he could see him obviously playing that centre-back role and being the starter next to Maguire or Varane. However, he can also play in the defensive midfield role. And if Man United don't secure this De Jong signing, or anybody else in replacement of De Jong, he could, as a year stopgap before they get similar to what we're doing. I know Longley's our loan, but he could also be that potential stopgap if Maguire and Varane want to start as the main duo, or whatever you want to do. Ten Hag, he could be then the DM, fall back into that line, create a 3 at the back, things like that. So
his versatility, I think explains the price tag.
Maybe adds on an extra 5 or 6 million. I think it's a lot of money.
It adds on an extra 20 million. I think it adds on an extra 20 million.
I think it's an extra.
If he were just a centre back, I don't think he would be worth
51 million is a lot of money.
Again, for an Eredivisie player as well, and again for an Eredivisie player, like we discussed before, who knows? There could be a bit of a drop off. compare him to Sven Botman then?
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that.
Again, I'm just trying to, look at Ten Hag and, what he had available to him. Should he have gone? I feel like he went after Lissandro, like you said, we don't need to repeat ourselves, right? Where he went after him because he's versatile. He's more of a utility player. He's a technician. Lissandro Martinez, like, he gets in for those reasons. But this was also available to him, £33.5 million deal for Sven Botman.
Botman's going to do well.
Who do you think wins this one? Seems like we said De Ligt wins. That was probably obvious. Just bit Botman win here too. I
think that's a really tough one. I think Martinez wins. However, I'll be happy if this is the one that I'm wrong on, if you know what I mean. I think Martinez will have a better season just because I do think Man U are having a little bit of the impact that Ten Hag's had in the preseason already is a lot more significant than I thought. And it seems like the amount of chances they're creating in games and goals they're scoring in games is going to automatically go up from the start of the season. I think he's going to have an important role to play just with his ball playing ability and his defensive ability is very good. But Newcastle, including Botman in that defense now, who's he going to play with is my question, really, is what I want to get
Dan Burn and him very like two trees in the back, two absolute trees in the back.
If him and Burn work out, then cool. That could turn out to be really, really brilliant centre-back partnership. But Botman's a little slow. I think,
so is Dan Burn.
There's this tendency, for potentially in the Eddie Howe system, if he doesn't, because he did improve defensively, sort of his coach in Eddie Howe, and he played a lot more defensively last season. But if he wants to be more confident and, take it to teams next season, Dan Burn and Sven Botman might get caught out a couple of times. So I think it's a great signing.
I think Lissandro might win this one. Actually, maybe Lissandro does win this one. No,
I think Lissandro might win. It doesn't sound right. No, it doesn't. But I think he does win out.
Such a huge fee. Like I feel like Sven Botman is worth that price. I think he is worth that price.
Oh, definitely. They got a good price for him. I think he's better. I think it's better they got him than Diego Carlos, who went to Villa as well, wasn't it? So
another kind of quick one here. Christensen on a free to Barcelona. Luis Felipe went on a free from Lazio to Real Betis, if you didn't know this.
Interesting. I had no idea about that.
I just think Luis Felipe wins this one. I think it's nice, quick, and simple. I think Christensen I actually rate. I don't think it's harsh. I think it'd be harsh to say Christensen isn't a good center back. I think he is a good center back, especially on the ball. I think he's a decent center back, despite that, Champions League blunder. But Luis Felipe on a free to Betis, I think that would have been a much better move for Barcelona, if you ask me. Especially fewer wages, I would imagine, or the wages wouldn't have been as big. Brazilian. Also, like a kind of just seems like he'd fit into a Barcelona-like team. So, any Barca fans or anybody that has a liking to Barca, I just think that move, to Betis, they really should have taken a look at. And the reason I brought it up only is because he went to a Spanish club, Luis Felipe. So that's why I kind of brought it up even. So maybe I think he wins that one as well. And I don't know. Yeah, Christensen just 4-1. Last one here, Leeds versus Aston Villa. Again, we've already said everything that we've said about Leeds, so maybe consider that. And then Aston Villa, 27.9 million on Diego Carlos. It's not supposed to be Luis Sinisterra. It's actually supposed I don't know why I kept correcting it and just wouldn't let me do it, but it's supposed to be who did they bring in? I'm actually trying to remember. Philippe Coutinho. That's supposed to be Philippe Coutinho.
Is that how much he only cost? Really?
18 million.
Wow.
Robin Olsen, really Augustinson, Kamara on a free, and obviously Luca Digne they also brought in the winter, so I decided to include that one.
Everton robbed.
I still feel like Leeds win again. I'll still say Leeds win. Yeah. I think Leeds win. Just because Diego Carlos, I think they overpaid for.
Yeah.
Coutinho, if he doesn't get, the season that I think he's supposed to get, then I think there is some huge wages that I'm imagining he's on. Yeah. So that could be, a sketchy one. Augustinson, I don't really know. They already got Matt Target in. I think he's kind of just the Swedish version of Matt Target, I feel like. Boubacar Kamara, great signing, also on a free. I feel like that will be, a very clever one for them. I don't know if they really needed another defensive midfielder, though.
Douglas Luiz is still there, isn't he?
Douglas Luiz, who I think is great. And they have Sanson, they have McGinn. I know those are kind of different types of players.
Marvelous Nakamba is still there as well.
I just feel like they needed something different than Kamara, but we'll see how that goes. And then Luca Dean, a good signing.
Overpayment.
Or sorry, they brought in Luca Dean. Augustinsson is, probably the backup to Luca Dean. I imagine. I don't know. I think Leeds still win in my eyes.
I agree. I think Luca Dean's an overpayment. Kamara's a great signing. Coutinho, I think, is a great signing in my opinion. Carlos,
it is still a good signing.
We'll see. Definitely, Carlos has got a presence about him, so it's an improvement on Tyrone Mings, who is, in my opinion, one of the most overrated centre backs in the league. I don't know how he's getting in the England team and Eric Dyer isn't. It's probably only because he's left-footed, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, good business from both of them. To be fair, that mid range of the table in the Premier League seem to be doing. West Ham as well seems to be doing a bit of underrated business. And Forest is linked with Jesse Lingard. It's them and West Ham who are fighting for Jesse Lingard. So Forest managed to get Jesse
Forest
Lingard.
might win that Leeds battle. That was probably a better test, actually, comparing Leeds and Forest is. But Darius, tell us about Paxton Road, my man. Thank you for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Paxton Road is really trying their hardest to bring out a lot of content before the season starts. It feels like everybody in Paxton Road managed to get season tickets this season, so they'll all be at games. We're trying to do watch-alongs for the preseason games. So Rangers this weekend will be doing a watch-along too. If you are free and you are up, feel free to join us. I think it'll probably be me, Sam, and Sean or Sid, maybe Jack. So if you do want to come and watch the game, or if you already were watching the game, you want to join us, then we'd love you to come on. If you're not, then we'd love you to be in the comments. And everybody else who's here, we'd love you to be in the comments as well. So big up Ellie. Hi, Ellie. Obviously, legend. Honestly, Paxton Road is constantly putting out content for you guys. And like I said, Sid's got his show on Friday. Talking Points has been moved to Monday now, obviously because we are now playing on Tuesdays potentially. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in this season for Tottenham and for Paxton Road. And you can always find us everywhere, and you'll always find Jack there as well. We always welcome him.
Love it. Well, everybody, all I can say is Paxton Road. It's the channel that I make the time out of my day to watch Spurs content for. I'm already kind of making a lot of Spurs content on the Irish Hotspur. The reason I left this channel is because I can actually shut up when it comes to Spurs every once in a while, and I can talk about some other football and kind of engage my interest there. And Paxton Road is still the channel that I'm actually interested, enough to still listen to what they have to say. That's how much I love that channel. So that's kind of my, plaudits for them. But everybody, really do appreciate you listening. Really do appreciate you tuning in. I had a really good time, I think, with Darius. As much as we missed Kieran, I think we had really, really good discussions on plenty of things. So the transfer battles, I think, are a success. We'll do another sort of kind of, transfer related stream about just general transfer window, general teams and whatnot next week. We already had the Premier League prediction reaction video that just got released today, everybody. So I would check that out. Not too long either. And I think there's some really hilarious predictions made by David as well as myself. And then we'll have, obviously, the new Premier League predictions video coming out, when maybe some more transfers happen. And then also Darius and I maybe will redo our top 6 prediction.
Oh yeah, we have to do that again. That was very fun. What? It's so weird. I was going to ask you, are we going to do a part 2 of that? Because
that was so fun.
Was probably my favorite video that we've done so far. So it'll be good to look back at that next year. So yeah, definitely put me in for that, and we can do that as soon as possible.
There we go. Well, plenty of content coming out, everybody. So don't you worry. I will be around, and hit that like on your way out, everybody. Please. Feel free as well to subscribe if you did enjoy the content. Head on over to Paxton Road as well. But everybody, as always, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust, and we will be seeing you.